Brian Harsin, man, we kept talking about it over and over again. Brian Harsin was finally fired. So
Keyword finally.
Auburn hires their new AD, poaches him, of course, from Mississippi State. And the first thing this man does is call out Brian Harsin and say, "Yo, get out, bro." Like, that's like literally, it was like the same day. Like,
let's not pretend like that's not what was probably like a huge part of the interview process when Auburn was hiring a new athletic director. I'm sure like one of the main questions was, okay, if we hire you, first day on the job, what are you doing with Harsin? And if they didn't get, oh yeah, I want to fire his ass,
then boom,
you're
like,
not
a candidate. Yeah.
Auburn, of course, you just said they poached Mississippi State's athletic director, which, by the way, that in of itself is kind of funny. Not if you're a Mississippi State fan, because Mississippi State has had two different athletic directors poached away by fellow SEC institutions in the last, I think, 6 years. They had Scott Strickland go to Florida, and now they have their current guy go to Auburn. And that's just kind of funny to me. But
it's a shame, but it means that they know how to find talent, I guess.
Well, it just shows you what these guys think about the jobs. Like, when we talk about these jobs and their attractiveness, it sucks because Mississippi State objectively has been a more successful program than Auburn the last couple years or so. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a better job. And I think the athletic director shows that. But it's unfortunate, but that's just how it works. But anyhow, with Harsin being gone, I know a lot of people have talked about this job. It is a very attractive job. Like, I would argue that it's the most attractive job.
I've seen a lot of names thrown around, man. And I think the most common one I'm seeing, and I don't know, and this kind of goes back to poaching, man. I'm seeing a lot of Lane Kiffin everywhere. I don't know if Lane Kiffin would do it, but I'm seeing a lot of Lane Kiffin. And I'm seeing a lot of Deion Sanders. And I don't necessarily think that they would bring up primetime, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, man. I feel like they might do that for a splash hire. To get the recruiting going, to do all these things. I truly think Deion Sanders, you cannot rule out Deion Sanders. I think he's very well a candidate for this job.
Well, normally when you see these head coaching firings, you see these programs, they go out and they hire someone that kind of fills in a void, fills in a weakness that the prior coach was lacking. So, like, for instance, when a team struggles defensively for years, they go out and they hire a defensive-minded coach, i.e. Oklahoma with Venables. When a team struggles offensively, i.e. Florida, they go out and hire Dan Mullen. And it sort of like fills the void of what they had. With Auburn, the biggest problem has been, one, Harsin hasn't been able to recruit well, and two, Harsin was sort of like an out-of-the-box hire. Like, they went out of the box. They had years of Malzahn, kind of got stagnant, and they were, all right, we're going to go out of the box and hire someone from the Mountain West and see if he can, win in the SEC. Or I'll say this, even though I don't necessarily agree that you have to hire someone within the SEC, I would imagine that because Auburn did that, they're going to say, okay, we kind of want an SEC guy. They went out and they hired an SEC athletic director. The SEC athletic director probably is going to go find an SEC coach. So that's why I would say Lane Kiffin would be probably the first guy I would call.
I've seen that everywhere, and he's definitely a candidate that could potentially get poached. The only reason I'm thinking potentially primetime is just because of the splash. And in addition to that, man, if you get Coach Prime, you know who else you get?
Travis Hunter.
You get Travis Hunter, you get Shadir Sanders, who's been he's the son of Prime Time, and he's been pretty effective at quarterback. And then there's also a few other really talented Jackson State players that were highly recruited that would probably follow him over to Auburn. And so just like that, Auburn already has more talent on the roster just from that.
Oh, whoever hires Deion Sanders is gonna like have a massive recruiting bump. Like it's like expected. The thing is with Deion Sanders though, like, can he actually coach well? Can he actually develop on the field talent? Like, he hasn't been at Jackson State long enough.
He's doing well there, but he has such superior talent relative to what he's playing over there too.
Right. So it's really risky because you're guaranteeing that you're going to get elite recruits. Like, no matter where he goes, they are going to recruit, and it's going to be a huge splash and everything. Like, we always see it. That's guaranteed to happen.
And that's the only reason I think he's a wild card for this, man. I would not be shocked if his name surfaces.
But we all know, man, getting the best recruits doesn't necessarily mean you guarantee the success.
Ask Jimbo.
Yeah, exactly. And with Auburn, Auburn's in the SEC. It's not in the FCS. You're not an HBCU. Like, I would expect if a team was very serious about hiring primetime, that they would say, hey, like, we would expect you to get the highest quality of coordinators, like guys that actually are legit, like proven talent developing, coordinators and play callers. That would have to be a must if I was going to go the Deion Sanders route.
So Auburn being a team that can poach from other fellow SEC schools, kind of piggybacking off what you said. Another name I saw out there is Mark Stoops. Could potentially be a poach candidate. I saw Mark Stoops, and I also saw Hugh Freeze from Liberty making his return to the SEC.
Hugh Freeze just signed an extension with Liberty for obvious reasons. Liberty's kind of scared about that.
I know, man, but I mean, if Auburn's last 2 coaching fires have taught us anything, it's that they really don't care what the price tag is. They'll pay any buyout. They'll pay you anything.
It's monopoly money, man. It's monopoly money in
Auburn
the sport.
Has so much money, man. They are
especially
just
in the SEC.
hand over fist wiping their ass with it, like with all these coaching fires. Like they really are, man. And it just comes to show you, and that's why Auburn's a more lucrative job. I mean, that's why they're able to poach, Mississippi State's AD. He's probably making a bag compared to Mississippi State, just more money, man.
In terms of Stoops, I think Stoops would be a tremendous hire. Like, if realistically, I don't think Stoops is going to go there, to be honest. And he might.
He's got too good of a contract to Kentucky, though.
I could be wrong. He's got a great
contract to Kentucky.
Right, but the fact that we're even talking about Stoops as an option just shows like how unfair it is, though. Like, Kentucky has objectively been a way better program in recent years than Auburn. But again, that's not what matters. It's all about money and program prestige. So I could see Stoops doing that, but it's like at this point, man, his contract is so friendly. He's like,
he can be at Kentucky forever with that contract. Like, he's in a great spot.
And at Auburn, you're going from like a friendly contract, not that much pressure, to a pressure cooker, like a legit pressure cooker. And like, I think Stoops is a great coach and he would be successful there, but like, would he get Auburn to like that elite status to where they're like going toe to toe with Nick Saban and Brian Kelly? Can he get them back there? I don't know. If I was him, man, I would have a hard time making that move. Like, it would be very difficult for me to leave what I have at Kentucky. But how about Urban Meyer, man? If Urban Meyer, listen,
anytime there's a job opening, his name comes up. I would never hire him. Like, after all his history, man, everything that's gone on. If I was an AD, I would not touch the name Urban Meyer. Like, I would not breathe it. Like, I don't know why his name always comes up. It almost feels like lazy reporting. Like,
it kind of is, but at the same time, like, if you knew that Urban Meyer was going to take a job out there, and if you knew of the schools, like, which school do you think would be willing to just sort of like just take that bullet,
toss the money,
and say screw like the image? To me, it's like that would be Auburn. Auburn would be the school to do that. Come on, man. You know morality and image, and that goes out the window, man. In the SEC sometimes, especially with a school like Auburn right now, I feel like they would do anything to get Urban Meyer. Like, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Auburn just wants to be good again. They just want to beat Bama again. They want to be relevant, man.
And Urban Meyer wouldn't go anywhere other than a school like Auburn, I don't think. Like, I don't think he would go anywhere else. I don't think he'd go to Nebraska or Wisconsin. He would only go to a school like Auburn would be like the lowest tier of schools where I think he would pull the trigger.
I think Urban Meyer would go anywhere as long as the money's right.
So you think he'd go to like Arizona State if Arizona State dropped?
If the money was right. So you mentioned Nebraska, and that's the only reason I mentioned that, because Nebraska's got that Big Ten money. So, I mean, if Nebraska offered him a bag, I think he'd go.
I think he'd go to Auburn over Nebraska, but
probably so. I mean, I think their bag is bigger, but like, it doesn't matter, man. It's you offer a bag, you get the coach.
Mountaineer Nation, let's ride. Mountaineer Nation, let's ride. Mountaineer Nation, let's ride.